Welcome, everybody. Joe here with ECRM, and I have with me today three people from Hecky's Barbecue. I have Hecky Powell Jr., Catherine Boatwright, and Carl Lamel. And Hecky's Barbecue was a participant in ECRM's recent Black-owned efficient supplier introductions for pantry supplies. And you may have heard the Hecky name before. Recently, Hecky Powell Sr., who unfortunately passed away in May due to coronavirus, was featured on NBC as one of their Lives Well Lived features because he was such an iconic figure in the Evanston, Illinois community where they're based. So it's really an honor to be interviewing everybody here today. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. And to start off, Hecky, can you give me a little overview of the company and your origin? Because you guys have done a tremendous amount of things for the community over the years, and your business has evolved so much. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. And I mean, that within itself can probably be very long. So I'll try to give you as abbreviated version as possible for our time. But basically, my dad and my mom, but my dad was working in social work, probably prior to Hecky's, and doing this in this organization called Neighbors at Work. And it was headquartered here in Evanston in the Masonic Temple. And it used to be one of the largest social services organizations at the time. And he was doing a lot of stuff there. I mean, helping people find jobs, trying to get people that were a little bit downtrodden at the time, back on their feet and on the right track. And, a lot of people that just needed help within the Evanston community. And basically, he had a mentor who has since passed as well years back, named James Fuller. And James Fuller owned a barbecue. Well, he owned the real estate of a barbecue restaurant right next door. He actually also owned the real estate of the Masonic Temple where Neighbors at Work was at. And his brother, Tom Fuller, his younger brother, had a barbecue spot there, and it was called Evanston Rib Place. Tom was also involved with a lot of politics down in the city of Chicago, I believe, in the Cook County area. So he had that place for about a year, but remember, this is like the early 80s. There's no, technology like this. You can't really keep your eye on both things. And so he had a choice to make. Did he want to go be in the restaurant business, or did he want to continue with his political career down in Chicago? Remember, again, like no technology. So he chose the politics, and they were looking to sell the restaurant, this place, Evanston Rib Place at the time, right next door to where my dad worked. So Mr. Fuller, they brought him this opportunity, told him what was going on. And my grandmother, who is kind of inspiration for a lot of the recipes and the cooks, she's originally from New Orleans. And always grew up, cooking food, and that was some of my best memories I had of childhood, was going over to her house for, Christmas or Thanksgiving, and, getting food with the family. She was able to cook and the inspiration. She had a part-time job at a restaurant that she recently got laid off from. And then my granddad, who maybe we'll probably talk about later, the foundation's named after, he was older, and so he was kind of retired at the time too, like looking for work, but it just so happened to be, this seemed like a good opportunity. I saw a segment once, someone joked about, you thought it was a good idea to put your parents to work, talking to my dad. He's like, oh, well, they want to work. But it just, a lot of things came together, and him and my mom decided to buy that place, Evanston Rib Place, renamed it Hecky's Barbecue, very limited hours. And that's kind of the origin of the story of how we got into the restaurant business. So there was no grand plan. There was no business plan. I can tell you that. There's nothing in the documents. This came about. It was right next door. My dad was like, I could do my social services work and Neighbors at Work, and I could come in afterwards and work at this restaurant with my mom and my dad, and we'd have some independent income coming in.
Yep, that's how it starts. That's how a lot of those things start. And look, it works because it's been so long. And in the beginning, what did the restaurant sell? It was just barbecue food and the sauce. And
that's correct. And some people ask too, like, well, why barbecue? Mm-hmm. And again, it was a barbecue restaurant there. The equipment for barbecue was there. That's how we decided. Literally, no grand plan, no grand plan. Like a lot of people are like, oh, your Cajun Creole, why wasn't it a bunch of gumbos and jambalaya and all that? It's like, well, we knew how to do barbecue, and that's what was there. It was limited hours, I believe. I mean, I want to say it was something like maybe at first like 4 to 8. I can be wrong about that. I would have to ask my mom. And yeah, it was simply barbecue food. So my dad had talked to a bunch of folks that were in the business in the Black community around Chicago, especially on the South Side, where a lot of the barbecue in Chicago originated from. And so we're talking like, rib tips, which I feel like is definitely a very Chicago dish when it comes to barbecue. Ribs, links, stuff like that.
I'm getting hungry just talking about it. So, so your dad was into a lot of philanthropy as well. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the initiatives he did?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would almost say that the restaurant was also his way of giving back in a philanthropic endeavor too, because he really never left that kind of public presence and philanthropy into the community mindset when he was at Neighbors at Work. It kind of just transitioned over to this business when he took it over full time. So he was always, talking to folks in the community, seeing what he can do to help them out, whether it was that he's something that he can do directly by giving them jobs, giving them training within the restaurant business, or reaching out to other folks in the community, try to, to help folks out. He was always doing stuff like that. And then you could argue maybe when my grandfather passed, there was more formality around that, or at least from a public standpoint, because that's when he started the Forrest E. Powell Foundation. And that's where you got a lot more formal stuff. So we would have banquets, meetings, raise some money for folks in the community to help them out, recognize people. The big award of the Forrest E. Powell Foundation is the Work Ethic Award, and it's usually literally given to someone who is hardworking within the Evanston community. Might not be a celebrity, but like just shows the values, especially that my not only my dad and our family had, but my grandfather had, which was just family, hard work, and getting back to the community.
Gotcha. And then he even worked it into some of his products, the Juneteenth strawberry soda. How did that come about?
Yeah, that, okay, so my dad had a liver transplant almost 10 years ago in I believe it was September of 2011. And, obviously that's a major surgery. And so, when he was recovering, it's not like he couldn't go and work, because if he could, he definitely would. Like, he would not have stayed one bit in this house longer than he needed to. He would want to be over there working. And that's just how he was. And so when he was recovering, he's like, okay, well, what do I want to do? And he got big into looking up his ancestry, especially on his dad's side. So if you kind of know Louisiana folks, and I actually have Louisiana folks on both sides of my family, my mom and my dad's, we tend to know the folks from Louisiana side a little bit better. I can tell you, and our family kind of dominates a little bit more. So my dad knew his mother, who was originally from New Orleans, like the history of her, her side more than he knew anything about his dad's side. So he was really curious to look up his dad's side. And so he was able to, through a lot of research and trace when they first came to Evanston, because normally you would think, well, if you're coming, they came from Muscatine, Iowa to Evanston. But you normally think, yeah, if they were moving back in those days, like, why not Chicago? And we don't know why that was. Mm. But he was able to trace from Muscatine, and then he was able to trace further to when, I believe it would be his great-great-grandmother. I could be wrong about this. I start to get lose track on the great-great. Was enslaved on a plantation in Missouri, actually, in New Madrid, Missouri. And so he found about that history, found out about his great-grandfather. I might be two greats off, I don't know. And found a lot about that, and that's how he decided to like use Juneteenth, and the history of that, because he was very proud of that, of his great-grandfather, to use that as another philanthropic endeavor to kind of give back. So certain portion of the proceeds goes back to helping folks here in the Evanston community.
That's awesome. And I didn't realize that the red colored food was kind of a part of that whole tradition.
Yeah, and that's Juneteenth in general. Maybe is getting more recognition. Obviously, that we've seen. I mean, this is the first time I've personally seen it being hit like the news media this year. Before then, I only knew it through my dad, and we've had this Juneteenth soda for a few years now, and this is the first time I'm seeing some recognition about Juneteenth, what happened down in Texas about trying to make it a national holiday. So maybe in a little way, we're a little bit ahead of our time on that, but.
So now we get into the product part of it. So and Hecky and Catherine, can you start? How did that evolve? How did it go from okay, you're serving people from this location to developing the products, and where and how did that come bring you to where you are today?
Basically, as the food became more popular, so did the main product, which is the sauce. I mean, that's the motto of the organization. It's the sauce for a reason. I believe, really, I mean, we've never had any type of dedicated or really sales force for distribution of the product. To recently, until Catherine has come on board to help us out and all that, in partnership. Most of the distribution really happened when people just came in and called my dad up and just like, would you be open to having the sauce in the store? Or, hey, we have this pizza restaurant, but we're thinking about making a pulled pork pizza, and we really like your pulled pork. Can you willing to sell that to us? And he's like, oh yeah, why not? Why not? So I know like most of the places that we've had a very long-term relationship with really started off that way. It wasn't any type of my dad going to these places and selling product or anything like that. It was organic and them just coming to us, and mostly right now on the North Shore area.
So great. It's so like the whole thing was kind of a story of evolution, how you went from one thing to another, truly based on your customers asking for it. And I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. Yep.
So Catherine, do you want to take us through the products that product lineup?
Yes, sure. We're so excited to introduce everyone to Hecky's Barbecue and Hecky's Barbecue Sauce. This is our original sauce. It is a zesty, savory, smoky flavor blend of spices made from Hecky's grandmother. Originated the actual ingredients within the sauce. It's filled with tomato paste, garlic powder, secret spices, and paprika. And then we also have Hecky's Hot Barbecue Sauce, which is just a spicier version of the original barbecue sauce. And then Hecky's Seasoning. Basically, it's just a seasoning or rub that you can use on anything like ribs, chicken, turkey, fish, salads. It's really good. When I put it on anything that I use, I'm always wondering, like, what is that extra flavor, and that I don't just get anywhere with the seasonings that are available right now. So this one is one of my favorite. It's always gone. I'm always like, where's the last bit? It's always gone. And it's made with some brown sugar, spices, and paprika as well. And then we also have the Juneteenth strawberry soda. And it's a light, effervescent, kind of freshly tasting strawberry soda.
I like that one. Hold it up a little bit more so the label closer. That's really cool label. And that is on the front?
Yes.
Okay, who's that on the front?
Oh, that is Hecky's grandfather.
Gotcha.
Yes. So those are our products that we have available right now.
Okay, and where are you currently distributed?
Currently, we are in local grocery stores in Evanston, Skokie area, north suburbs of Chicago, along with a number of restaurants that cater our products as well. Northwestern University, Kellogg Graduate School. If they go back to school, we'll be supplying all of our sauces in their cafeterias, as well as their concession stands as well.
Very cool. So I really liked the whole evolution from the takeout and delivery, from the in-person location, to now you're doing food service as well as now getting on the shelves. So and this brings us to the ESI. So obviously you're looking to expand to a much larger level, and these are perfect for that. So Tell me about your experience with the whole ESI, as far as, once you registered, how your preparation went and the actual presentation itself.
Yes, it was very seamless and very easy. I work with Ashley, and she, once I registered, I found it through RangeMe. So I registered, and then Ashley connected with me to do a test with Zoom to make sure she could hear me okay, the video looked good, and how to share and do any kind of things with Zoom that might need interactive things that I might need to do during the call. I had a PowerPoint presentation already for Hecky's prepared, so I just kind of asked Ashley about what do buyers really want? What do they like to see in a presentation? So I incorporated some of those things into my presentation, like our capability, our current capacity. And so that way, pretty much all was encapsulated in the PowerPoint presentation, and Ashley was perfect and met with her at least 2 or 3 times. It was really easy.
Excellent. Well, you know what? It is all in the prep. I mean, once you know your settings work, and really, I think you touched on a key that's important for any suppliers is, learning what the needs and objectives of the buyers are, and then tailoring your presentation accordingly, because, that's so important, and buyers really like to hear that people have done their homework and that are, really talking about the things they want to know, especially you limit it to 10 minutes. So
Yes. I was nervous about that at first, but then as I went through it, I think my slides was about 12 slides, which is just like kind of perfect. So I also wanted to make sure during my presentation that I dedicated a portion and tributed to Hecky's for his passing in May. So that was part of my presentation that I put in as well. So sometimes those things aren't really in presentations, of course, but I wanted to include that because he's the pioneer of all of this.
yeah, and you guys have a great story to tell. Obviously, 10 minutes is not enough time to tell the whole story that we went over, but at least you could get a little bit in and still focus on the things. A lot of people realize, wow, 10 minutes really is enough time if you do it correctly, and obviously you did. So how have the follow-ups been since then?
We are in touch with 4 different major retail chains, and we are doing follow-up with them right now. So we're just looking to send out our products to them and engaging and find out what their shelf space looks like and how we can engage and work with them.
Excellent. Well, this is the key point. I mean, we put the intro together. The main point is that they got in touch with you, they reached out to you, and now the real work begins. Yes.
And we do offer different variety package too, like for different larger retailers that want a larger larger size. This size is a 20.25 ounces, but some people want a larger size to offer their customers, as well as the seasoning too. We have caterers that are interested in a larger size for our seasoning, like a 5-pound size. So we're looking into doing those larger sizes as well.
Gotcha. So for those club stores who are interested, you can accommodate them with the larger sizes.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I wish you the best of luck on that.
Thank you.
Now that we've all been doing this virtual thing for a little while, and maybe we'll get Carl to pitch in on this one. It's, where do you see virtual playing a role down the road? I mean, we've kind of been forced into this virtual setting, this virtual universe, and eventually this will pass. And when it does, where do you see virtual playing a role with retail and CPG?
From my perspective, I think it's going to be a mixture. I think people are going to go back and forth. You're not going to get away from people needing to talk to people one-on-one. And I feel that as most things, we go far right, far left, and then somehow or other we come to a center, and that'll be the new norm, as they say. I don't know what you think, Hecky. You have a younger perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I can't comment so much on CPG, but I mean, so before I came back home, I was working in the financial services industry, and
Right.
Our sales team had a bunch of clients, and they would fly out all the time from the home office to meet with them. And I can just tell you, virtually, they're doing fine, but virtually, it's it isn't a no-brainer. Like doing more of it and maybe a little less in face to face, and the meeting in the middle, as Carl said, is probably the way to go. You're not going to get away from meeting face to face, but and again, like companies are not going to ignore the cost savings that they can get from a virtual, virtual interaction. And so, yeah.
And I think that also it gives more people, more businesses, more opportunities, because like us, to meet with all 22 buyers, really wouldn't have happened anywhere else. Even if we were at a conference, it would probably be more limited. And so I just think that it opens that door for all kinds of businesses, Black-owned, minorities, every business to have, small businesses that just really don't even have a budget to enable them to go fly and stay in a hotel and to go to a conference. So I think this just opens that up to make good trouble in this industry and stir things up, so we have that opportunity and have at least that opportunity to have that chance to be on those shelves.
And the other thing also is it saves the one resource that we can't make more of, and that's time. And that's what I've been hearing more and more of. If you can get in, double the calls by not flying. And you're right, in-person's not going to go away. I've been to 48 of our in-person sessions last year. I'm always on the road and I love it. But, maybe you don't have to go to that many to be able to accomplish what, you can, at least your initial meetings can be virtual. And then as you're getting closer, then you meet in person, and when you have the more deeper, more meaningful conversations. So, well, thank you guys for joining me. This has been, awesome. And again, it's an honor to be interviewing you guys. I really like your story. And I look forward to seeing all of you in person eventually. Either next time I can travel to Chicago, I'll give you a heads up, or at one of our future sessions in person. But until then, everybody, thank you again and stay safe.